make it a great day, and do the best you can. Again, don't cause crap on the job. Don't be that person. Just get there, get your work done, gain the knowledge, share what you have with other people, and constantly work on bettering yourself. Whether you want to be a contractor someday yourself, whether or not you want to do that for a living, whether you want to be your own boss, things like that. We are going to talk about that tonight on Master the NEC Live. We're going to be talking about taking that step to be your own boss and everything that's associated with it, like the insurances, the licenses, the testing, everything. Tonight's a topic on that, Master the NEC Live, at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. A little earlier than we usually do it in the past when we did Electrician Live, which was at 8 p.m. because I realize I'm trying to find a happy medium between the West Coast and East Coast, and it seems like 7's the right time. It's perfectly fine for us here in Texas. So that's what it's going to be. So that's our episode tonight. We're going to talk about starting a new business and everything you had to think. I'm going to tell you some stories about some pitfalls and things that I had to go through starting my companies back when I had my electrical contracting businesses. And we'll talk about the dynamics of working with family and all those type of things. But on today's mobile podcast, I wanted to talk about mobile home calculations. Not that you're ever going to really need to do any of these out in the field. Most of the time, the mobile homes will come already with the service in it, or in this case, probably a remote distribution panel in it. And it's probably going to be 100 amps anyway, and all those rules that we have in 550. But there are occasions where on an exam you might get asked to calculate out using the standard method a mobile home calculation. And the question might simply be, what is the service size? And there's differences in whether or not you use a power cord or whether or not it is permanent wired and all those kind of goodies. But I wanted to just talk today about the calculation part of it. And we're talking about 550.18. Now, last night I did a class with students. I tried to be clever, and we did an example, and then I wanted to give them some homework. The goal was to show that in the mobile home calculation, so that people don't stress out on an exam, that sizing, that the difference on whether or not you leave out something like the laundry or whatever is not going to change, generally not going to change the overall calculation. Now, in saying that, I realized, all right, as we were done, that I probably wasn't a good setup for homework, because they know I've never given homework before, really never. I've told them to go to the Sparky Hub, but I've never really given homework, if you will. So I was trying to piggyback onto next week, which was I was going to talk about various branch circuit requirements in loading for different things like laundry, small appliances, and try to dig deep into all those things. But it backfired on me as usual, because the students are sharp. They, again, I don't remember who it was, but made a comment about whether or not the laundry was required in the 550.18 calculation, and I tried to divert the best I could because I was trying to set them up to have a conversation next week. But it didn't go real well for me because I didn't set it up very well. But anyway, so I figured we would talk about it, and I was just going to give you the actual calculations and what you're supposed to do. So in 550.18, you have an A, a B, and a C. C is the optional method, which is ultimately going to tell you hey, it's okay to calculate the mobile home just like you would for optional method in 220.82, okay, for a single dwelling unit. That's fine. And that's probably, honest with you, what most people will do. But the interesting enough is that you do get presented with a standard method in 550.18 A and B. And A is probably going to be the one that gets you all of your, it is going to get you all your general lighting applications. It's going to get you your small appliance. It's going to get you your laundry. And then you do have some demands that you get to apply to it, just like you would under normal standard calculation under Part 3 of Article 220 for let's say, a one-family dwelling. You're still going to get some demands, right? You still get your some benefits of having, for example, 4 or more appliances. You still get that benefit under B in 550.18. You still get all those advantages. What's interesting is you also, when you're hunting for the largest motor in the mobile home, in 550.18B, and I think it's B3, I can't remember now, it basically flat out tells you to take the largest motor at 25%. You still have to count for the motor anyway, because that's one of the appliances, or it could be just one of the largest motors. But just the fact that it kind of steps you through the process is what makes 550.18 so easy. Now, what can make it complicated is you'll notice that it starts out in 550.18A, and again, you can pause this and go get your code book and look. Well, it starts out as a kind of a normal volt ampere calculation, right? 3 VA per square foot, and then of course it goes in and says, well, you need to count 1500 VA for every small appliance branch circuit. Well, you have to have at least one, right? I mean, obviously you would have to, or there wouldn't be any small appliance branch circuit there. So, but it doesn't tell you that you have to have a minimum of 2, like what you get when you're doing a dwelling in Part 3 standard method, right? It doesn't mention that you have to have a minimum of 2, right? It doesn't come into the rules of 210.11C. That doesn't kick in. It's a mobile home. Remember, this is Part 5, right? 550. Modifies and supplements anything that's in Chapters 1 through 7. In this case, it's Chapter 5. So it's doing some modifications right now, right? So, and there's a bunch of rules in 550 that you still have to be aware of. And we're actually going to go into all of those deeper with our new video series into 2023 once it comes out. So again, spoiler alert, we are going to be analyzing the crap out of 2023 coming up. So make sure you go to Fast Track's Tube and subscribe and get an annual membership so you can get access to all those exclusive videos, because they will only be shared on Fast Track's Tube. Okay? That's our own social platforms. That's the only place it's going to be. So there you go. Spoiler alert. All right. So if I have a mobile home, the square footage works the same way, right? It's based on the outside dimensions, length times width, right? And it's times 3 VA per square foot. Next, you have to have at least one small appliance branch circuit, but if you have more than one, then it's still 1500 VA for each one of them. So that's not really a big difference, except again, for single family dwellings, you have to have at least 2. Here, mobile home, you don't have to have at least 2. So there's no minimum rule for that. Laundry. Okay, so here's where I was trying to throw the students last night, because I wanted to do a reveal next week when I'm talking about the branch circuits, but it went poorly for me because, again, let me tell you what, folks, if you're not a student that comes to the Wednesday night sessions, you really can get a lot from everybody's communication and talk. They bring up great stuff. And so when I was trying to set them up for next week's episode for branch circuits and calculating and what gets included and what doesn't get included, because again, remember, Wednesday night is not to take the place of the fast tracks. It's just a lessons and things that I want to bring up and teach you that's outside of the scope of the program. So that's why it's neat to come. But anyway, a couple of students immediately stepped up, and one of them, point blank, kind of derailed my whole thing that I was doing when he said, "Wait a minute, isn't the laundry required?" And the moment he said that, if you were to watch the video, you would see me cringe, because I was like, well, screw it. That screws my whole plan for next week. But that's okay. That's fine. I still gave them a homework assignment that leaves off the laundry. Now, the reason I did that is because I want them to see that if they make a mistake on this type of calculation on an exam, it's not going to dramatically affect the size of the service. Now, that's not to say in all cases, because sometimes as little as 1500 VA can affect when you're doing a single family dwelling. But when it came to mobile homes, it was my opinion that generally if they make a mistake and leave off one item like that, and we were going to do the laundry, it's not going to make a big difference. Of course, then I decided, well, the cat's out of the bag. I'll just go on and show them informative Annex D11. That's a kind of a cheater that if you're on an exam and you get a mobile home question, just jump to D11 and that kind of spills all the beans anyway. So it kind of derailed me, but let me go on and tell you the deal. So 3 VA per square foot, you have to have at least one small appliance brand circuit at 1500 VA. If you have more than one and you account for it, you have to have a laundry circuit, okay? And it's not so much the laundry circuit is that you have to, because these mobile homes are already pre-done, right? So you're not wiring these things typically from the way I teach exam prep. So reality is it's just a load calc. So you have to use 1500 VA for the laundry. Now, the next step that you would have in the process is you simply add up all your loads, your small appliance, your general lighting, and your laundry. And now you get to apply demands. Now the demands are pretty similar. The first 3,000 of that VA, that volt ampere at 100%, so at least 3,000's at 3,000, that's 100%. And then anything over that is at 35%. Pretty healthy demand, isn't it? So then you add the original 3,000, which was kept at 100%, and then whatever the 35% was of the remainder, you add them two together, right? Then here's where it gets interesting. You take that value and now you divide it by the voltage. In this case, it's 12240. You're going to divide it by 240. What that's going to give you is an amp value. That is the value on, because of the way current works, y'all know it's a 50 amp load, you have a 50 amp breaker. It's not 50 and 50 is 100, right? It's 50 on each leg, right? Okay, so when you took that VA, that volt amperes, and divided by 240, now that is the amp value for the leg A and leg B. Now, you simply go through each one of the loads and you break it down to find out what the amp value is, and y'all are familiar with the Ohm's law. You break it down to find out what the amps need to be distributed on each leg. So now you're working purely with amps, right? So, for example, if I were to take the garbage disposer, and that was a certain VA, then I simply take it and divide it by whatever the voltage is, right? And if it's 120, and let's say it was 4 amps, let's just say, then that would go on phase A. And then I would do another 120 volt load, see what its amps is after I take the VA and I've divided by the voltage, right? And then that would be its amps. And then you distribute that on the other leg, which would be B leg. And you keep on going down. If they're 240 volts, you evenly put it on each leg. You're trying to balance out leg A and leg B. Now, if one ends up being 48 amps and one ends up being 47 amps, then you just use the one with the higher amps, which would be the 48 amps. And then that's what you would go to find your service. Especially if you're doing a power cord, which has a limitation of 50 amps. That's what if you're going to use a cord and plug concept. So that's how you balance things out. And so that's just a simple question. Now, you have other rules in 550 that's going to tell you what size the services, minimum services need to be and all that. But a simple service minimum size for a service calculation where it just wants you to do the calcs, right? That's it. It just wants you to do the calculation. Then you follow the steps that I just told you. Now, in my little example to the students, I wanted them to come back the next week and do it right without the laundry. And then I was going to show them how if you add the laundry in there, we forgot something. Let's say we left it out. We missed it, right? If that was the case, then I wanted to be able to show them that 1500 VA is not going to change the service size, okay? So that was supposed to be my exercise, and it went miserably. But that's okay, because it went miserably because we have some amazing students that come to our Wednesday night session. In fact, some of the students have been coming for a long time, and they are getting very keen on some of these questions that I ask. So I was trying to be clever. I wasn't very clever. It's pretty obvious that I'm never clever. So anyway, kudos to those guys for figuring that out. I still tried to derail it, I really want them to do the calculation that I presented to them without the laundry. I'm still going to go over that lesson next week and explain it and show them the difference when it comes to the mobile home. But really the focus is branch circuits, and that's what we're talking about next week. But kudos to them. But I just wanted to make sure in this mobile podcast, you folks know how to do a mobile home calculation using 550.18. Now, we're not talking about a mobile home park. That's going to be on another thing. We're just talking about the mobile home itself and using 550.18. Now, if all of that confused you, don't worry. I think I'd already planned this, and I already planned my example last night, even though it went crappy. I already have a blog that Brittany's putting out today where I explain all this. Now, again, it's on the presumption that they weren't as clever as they were last night. But I've learned my lesson. They are clever. But the blog kind of doesn't. It kind of goes down this comparison scenario. So hopefully you check that out. The blog, I don't know when she's going to put it up, but it's supposed to go up sometime today. This is the 23rd of March. But it's going to be a nice little blog on the mobile home calculations. So hopefully you check it out on our blog. Where do you get my blog? Just go to fasttracksystem.com and you'll see it in the navigational. Whether you're using a mobile, it'll look like 3 little hamburgers. If you're using a desktop, you'll see where it says blog. And just click on the blog and you can read the blog. We have some really great blogs on calculations, so it'll save you a lot of time. But again, that's it, folks. Have a great evening or have a great day. Work hard, do your job. Don't listen to other people's gossip. Get your job done. Do the best you can. Kick it every day. Killing it. And all you students from last night, dude, y'all totally knocked me off my game plan, but you did wonderful. Okay? All right. Next time, stay safe. God bless.